Hello there, I'm John. Thanks for stopping by my new channel, and here we're going to be doing some cooking on this channel, showing you some simple shortcuts I've developed over the years, and really simple stuff. It's all easy and inexpensive, and if you don't find my recipes to your taste, well, maybe at least you'll be entertained, because frankly I'm not a professional chef. So there might get a laugh or two out of it. And while we cook, I'm going to be opining on various topics of interest, things I've run across in history or political stuff that I want to get a little deeper to. Maybe some other things also. I'm, fingers crossed, recovering from cancer, so I'm sure I'll get around to talking about that at some point. Today we're going to be making pita pizzas that are inexpensive and just as good as store-bought. I'm sure the concept of pita pizzas isn't new to you, most likely, but maybe some of my ideas on it will give you some inspiration to try them again. While we do this, I want to tell you about an epiphany I had a few years back as I was watching a documentary as to the identity of the real Garden of Eden. So hopefully that'll be of interest to you. So let's get started with the pizzas, and then I'll tell you my story about the Garden of Eden. So I've got all my ingredients together. We've got these pitas, which were under $3 for a 6-pack. I think they're 8-inch. Greek style. Sam's Choice is that brand. So here's the pita. I'm going to use the concave or convex or whatever that is side that holds the cheese better. Got some inexpensive pasta sauce here. I would have bought pizza sauce, but I didn't see it on the shelf there. I think they have it at Walmart somewhere besides there. And I've got mozzarella cheese. The pasta sauce was under $2. Mozzarella cheese was under $3, I believe. And I'm also going to be putting some capers on there, which are cheap. And I've got some salami that I'm going to cut up, which from the deli section that I'm going to use. So I like the salami because it's different. So that's part of the fun of getting to use your own stuff here, and so you can put whatever toppings you want on it when you're making the pizza yourself. So it's gonna put some start with the pasta sauce here, and we'll get that on there. Now don't forget, you got to preheat your oven. It should be preheated to 375 degrees. And of course you can put as much of this stuff on as you want. Try to leave a little bit of edge area there so that I have a place to grab a hold of. And I don't want too much sauce, but now, because this isn't pizza sauce, I'm going to put a little extra garlic in there by putting some garlic powder on there. Now, put some cheese. This, of course, is mozzarella cheese. And you want a medium amount. Of course, you can put as much as you want. I find if I put too much, though, it gets kind of sloppy. It wants to come off the pizza in big bunches. So there we go. All right, I'm going to put the capers on. I'll put them in a glass here so that they're easier to handle. I'm going to put these on. Now, I promised you, got to put the salami on next, but I promised you I would talk about Garden of Eden. So, The Garden of Eden. I watched a documentary a number of years ago about a place called GOEfinal. Now, well, first off, I should say that most people theorize that the Garden of Eden is in some place around the Fertile Crescent. Fertile Crescent runs from southern Iraq up to northern Syria and then down again through the Levant, like Lebanon and Israel. So I saw this documentary. It was about a place called GOEfinal, which is an archaeological site in northern Turkey. I mean, in southern Turkey. So it's basically on the edge of the Fertile Crescent. And really interesting place. It was first discovered in 1947 and by a farmer whose plow hit a stone, and he saw that there was a figure on the stone. So he called the authorities, but because of war and the fact that they didn't realize exactly what they had there, now I'm gonna put this pita on a preheated baking sheet that I happen to have put some aluminum foil on, so it doesn't make a mess. Put this back in the oven, and it doesn't take long. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes maybe. So now our pizza's just about done. Take a look at it in there. You can see. And timer's about to go off, so we might as well just go ahead and take it out. And there we go. That was 6 minutes. So, let's dish that up. Now, I've only made one. I made a couple of these the other day. Found out it was more than I could eat. So I've only made one. Now, you can also get these pitas in smaller size. So, basically when you do that, everybody gets their own little slice of pizza per pita. So, it's kind of fun, but it's a little more messy to make. So, let's cut this baby up. Oh, first, I want to put a little oregano on there. I was lucky enough to visit New York a number of years back. Actually, when the World Trade Center was still there. I had some New York pizza. That was the first time I saw anybody put oregano on a pizza, and it was yummy. So, just gonna cut this baby up. Now, this is not a crispy particular crust at this time. You can leave it in there longer, and the edges will get crispy. And unless you put it on a rack, though, you're not gonna get the center crispy. Just not going to do it with that pasta sauce on there. So, and don't be making fun of the way I use these utensils. I've got a little mild case of muscular dystrophy, so my hands don't work as well as some people's. Anyway, there it is. We've got the capers on there. I love capers on pizza. You can also put any topping you want. Your own custom pizza, so you get to decide. So, Göbekli Tepe. It wasn't actually investigated officially until the 1990s because they just didn't realize how important a site it was. And it's basically a large mound or hill. Local parlance is it's a tell. So this farmer had found it, they saved it, and now they finally dug it out in the 1990s. They found circle after circle of these stone structures, these enclosures. And in the center of them were these big standing stones, huge stones, and with carved relief animals on them from all around the world, by the way. And then there was these huge, massive beams that had been across the top, too. And so they at first thought this might have been a place of some sort of spirituality, maybe ancestor worship. But they didn't find any bones there. But the people local there did say, oh, everybody knows that this hill is the place to come to pray. That's a good place to come and pray. Which is very interesting because there's nothing written about the hill and there's nothing there to show you it's a good place to pray. Which means that they've been passing that down, word of mouth down for a long time. And that's really the astonishing part, is when they dug it up and they did a radiocarbon date, they got date of 9600 BC to 8200 BC. So when it was filled in. And that is a long time ago. So basically, those people have been hearing a word of mouth story for 10,000 years about that hill. Now, what was astonishing about that date, not only was it so far back, because it's very early for any kind of structures to be found that date back there, but that many, the huge stones, and the manpower it would have taken to be able to build this place were what really astonished them, along with that date, because that was way before agriculture was supposed to have been started, and which they believed was maybe around 6,000 BC. And so they thought, well, how could it be? And of course, the answer is it can't be. They have to be farming. And sure enough, when they researched further, they found evidence of seeds, of grains, there, and the typical one that was similar to other early agricultural sites. So it looked as if they were farming, and that's the only way you would support a population that large. Hunter-gatherers societies couldn't, because you eat all the fruits and the berries you can find, and all the eat animals, and then you got to move. So they thought, all right, well, they're doing farming. That is crazy. And then when you go back to what the book of Genesis says about it. So the book of Genesis says, this is chapter 3, verses 17 to 19. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust will return. That clearly is an admonition to Adam and Eve for having partaken of the tree of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, that they are now going to have to become agriculturalists. No more wandering around eating your food for free. So it could be, what it sounds to me is, that this is art. So this is a look back to the time when the switch over from hunter-gatherers to agriculture, basically the beginnings of civilization. So that is the story, I think, that is being related in the book of Genesis. And would people remember that? Would that be able to be passed down all that way? Well, certainly, if somebody can remember 10,000 years back to this place about that mound, when Genesis was written in 1400 BC or something, that's a much shorter time, probably even more detailed remembrance would be able to be passed down. So I think it's highly likely that the Garden of Eden was not a place, but a time. The place was the entire earth, because it was given to humanity, and they had it, and they could do what they wanted with it and move around and eat all those things for free. But once they got smart, started started having a large population, it didn't work out that way anymore, and they had to start growing their own food. So that is my theory on the Garden of Eden. Now, one last thing. During the excavation of Göbekli Tepe, they found hollowed out stone vats. Testing the biological evidence in the bottom of the vats, they found that they contained all the ingredients necessary to make beer. So imagine this scenario. You're a hunter-gatherer. Somehow you stumble upon a way to turn some grains that are growing naturally out there into beer, into alcohol. Other people find out. They start showing up because you now have to live in one place because you're brewing beer. And all these other people come to find out about this miracle liquid you got going on. And so now they all want to stick around and have it too. So you start growing all this you start growing a civilization. And you realize then that you can't provide beer to all these people on just the wild growing grains. So you have to start growing it yourself in order to get beer. So could it be that civilization started because of beer? Would not surprise me, especially if man was in charge. I hope you enjoyed this talk. Maybe you disagree with me, agree with me. I hope you at least found it interesting. And I hope you enjoyed your pita pizzas. So come back next time. We'll cook something else up and talk about a different subject. Thank you so much for watching.